Did you know every single person on this planet can survive 3 weeks without food, but only 3 days without water? And right now, an $865 billion global water market is controlled by 3 corporations that have more power over our survival than most governments. Enel extracts 3.7 billion gallons of water every year from communities that can't even afford to buy it back in bottles. Seca depletes local aquifers in places already hit by drought, then sells that same water back to residents at 1,000 times the cost. And Veolia controls water infrastructure in over 40 countries, making $28.5 billion a year while cutting off supply to families who can't pay their inflated rates. This isn't just corporate greed. This is a systematic 5-stage pattern of monopolization that has captured humanity's most essential resource. People say water wars are coming. I'm here to tell you, they're already here. And we are now entering the most critical phase, between 2025 and 2027, where corporate control over water either becomes permanent, or it faces the largest resistance movement in modern history. I'm going to show you the exact 5-stage pattern these giants use to turn a free, natural resource into a profit machine with margins as high as 80%, how they've engineered an $865 billion industry from something that literally falls from the sky, why 2.2 billion people have no access to safe drinking water while these companies control extraction, processing, and distribution worth more than the entire economy of Switzerland, and how the next 24 months will decide if water remains a human right or becomes the ultimate weapon of corporate control. Because when you control water, you control life itself. And these companies have spent 40 years perfecting their formula. But before I break down that 5-stage pattern, you need to understand the mathematical precision of manufactured scarcity. This crisis isn't natural, it's engineered for profit. Our planet's surface is 71% water, but 97% of that is salt water. Of the tiny 3% that's freshwater, most is frozen in glaciers or trapped deep underground. That leaves less than 1% of all the water on Earth easily accessible for 8 billion people. Now, here are the numbers that reveal the engineered crisis. 2.2 billion people lack access to safely managed drinking water. 3.5 billion lack basic sanitation. Every 2 minutes, a child dies from a water-related disease. That's 720 children every single day. But here's the crucial part. There's enough fresh water for everyone. It would only take about $90 billion in annual investment globally to solve this. Compare that to the $1.78 trillion we spend on the military, or the $865 billion revenue of the water industry itself. The shortage isn't real, it's managed. These companies profit by controlling access, not by increasing supply. This is the foundation of the monopolization pattern. Let's get into stage 1. Resource capture through legal extraction. This is where it all begins. Companies secure legal control over freshwater sources, laying the groundwork for their monopoly. First, they buy up government water rights for pennies. Enel pays just $524 a year for permits to extract 262 million gallons from Michigan aquifers. That's a fraction of a cent per gallon. They then sell it in a bottle for $1.50, a 750,000% markup. Their bottled water division alone brings in over $8 billion a year. Meanwhile, Veolia secures 25 to 99-year contracts with cities, often targeting those in financial distress. They offer to upgrade infrastructure up front in exchange for decades of control over the water system. Once they're in, they're a monopoly, and they have 200 million captive customers worldwide. CKA operates over 900 bottling plants, consuming 79 billion gallons a year. At their Dasani plants, they buy municipal water for less than a penny a gallon, run it through a basic filter, and sell it for $1.25. That's a 62,500% margin. The legal system enables this. In places like California, water rights are traded on a futures market. Corporations buy these rights when demand is low, and then during a drought, they can profit as prices spike up to 500%. This brings us to stage 2. Infrastructure control through technology dependence. After they've secured the water source, these companies create a technical dependency. They control the pipes, the treatment plants, the entire system that processes and distributes water. This makes it impossible for communities to function without them. They replace public systems with their own proprietary technology, locking cities into long-term service contracts for maintenance and upgrades that only they can provide. Suddenly, a public utility becomes a private, for-profit service. Communities become completely dependent on the corporation for their water supply, losing the knowledge and ability to manage it themselves. This technological grip is the second critical step in cementing their control, turning a public resource into a permanent revenue stream. Did you know that water, the very essence of life, is being turned into a commodity, controlled by a handful of global corporations? This isn't a far-off dystopian future. It's happening right now, in 5 distinct stages. Let's break down how this is being done. It all starts with technology. A company called Veolia has developed a smart water platform. They've installed over 6,000 of their systems in cities across 50 countries. Once a city adopts their proprietary software and hardware, they are locked in. Switching to another provider can cost between $50 to $500 million. It's not just software, it's physical infrastructure too. Advanced water treatment plants for reverse osmosis or UV purification require constant corporate maintenance contracts, a global market worth over $127 billion. Cities that privatize their water systems become completely dependent on these corporations for everything: specialized parts, software updates, and all technical support. Then comes the physical control of the water source itself. Nestlé, for example, has 64 bottling plants in North America alone. Each one can process up to 1,200 gallons of water per minute. Their facility in Michigan runs 24/7, pulling a staggering 1.1 million gallons from the ground every single day, even as local residents' wells are running dry. The massive investment, around $50 million per facility, creates a permanent extraction machine that operates regardless of local water shortages. This control extends right into your home through smart meters. Veolia has 15 million of these meters across Europe. They can remotely adjust your water flow, reduce pressure, or shut it off completely if you miss a payment. It's an incredibly efficient way for them to enforce revenue collection without ever sending a person to your door. Stage 3 is where things get really cynical. Market manipulation by exploiting crises. When Cape Town faced its day zero water crisis in 2018, with residents restricted to just 50 liters a day, Nestlé saw an opportunity. They ramped up their local production by 340% and jacked up prices by 85%. Their bottled water sales in South Africa that year hit $127 million, a record high for the region. It's a pattern. In 2019, when Chennai, India ran out of water, Coca-Cola's local plants kept extracting 2.8 million liters daily. They sold small bottles of water to families earning just a few dollars a day. Their revenue in India shot up 23%. Sometimes, these companies profit from infrastructure failures they helped create. In Flint, Michigan, Veolia's contract allowed for massive rate hikes during emergency conditions. As the lead crisis unfolded, they collected $67 million in emergency surcharges while their stock price jumped 12%. And now Wall Street is in on the game. Water futures began trading in 2020, allowing speculators to bet on California's water prices. This creates artificial price swings that corporations with actual water holdings can exploit, profiting immensely from drought and scarcity. The fourth stage is capturing the political and regulatory systems. Veolia spends $23 million a year on lobbying and employs hundreds of government relations professionals. They fund political campaigns that favor privatization and work to defeat public water initiatives. There's also a revolving door, where former government officials who regulated the water industry end up on the boards of these very same corporations. A former EPA administrator joined the board of Suez, and Veolia's North American team is staffed with dozens of former government water officials. International trade agreements also play a huge role, with clauses that allow corporations to sue governments if their policies might reduce expected profits. Veolia has used these to file billions in claims against countries that tried to take back public control of their water. Finally, Stage 5 is global expansion through what's called crisis capitalism. The World Bank often requires private sector participation in water management as a condition for granting development loans. This forces developing nations, desperate for investment, to hand over their water systems to corporations, from proprietary tech and infrastructure to exploiting crises, influencing politics, and leveraging international finance. A complex system is locking down the world's most precious resource. It's a quiet takeover, but the consequences are felt by millions. It's crucial to stay informed about what's happening to our water. We're now at Stage 5, the final act in the corporate takeover of water. This is where corporations like Veolia and Nestlé use climate change, population growth, and economic crises not just to expand, but to permanently eliminate any public alternatives. They've mastered the art of permanent crisis management. Think about it. Climate-driven water stress isn't a problem for them, it's a business opportunity. A $1-100-and-$20-7 billion opportunity by 2030, to be exact. Veolia strategically places its operations in regions predicted to face severe droughts, floods, or contamination. They swoop in, offering crisis management services that, over time, become permanent monopolies. Their climate adaptation division is already targeting 23 countries expected to face extreme water stress by 2027. Then there's population growth. In water-stressed regions, the demand for bottled water is skyrocketing, growing 12 to 15% every year. Nestlé's entire emerging market strategy is built on this. They focus on 47 countries where the local government can't keep up with the demand. They have an $8.5 billion investment pipeline to build new extraction and bottling plants across Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America through 2027. Economic crises are the final accelerator. When cities face massive budget shortfalls, they become desperate. That's when corporations come knocking, offering to buy out public water infrastructure for a quick cash infusion. During the 2008 financial crisis alone, Veolia acquired 89 municipal water systems. adding 23 million people to their global customer base. The five-stage pattern is complete when these corporations control everything: the extraction from the ground, the processing and bottling, the distribution network, the regulatory bodies, and even the response to crises they help create. At this point, public water systems become almost impossible to rebuild. It's permanent corporate control over the one resource no human can live without. Now let's look at the financial mechanics that make water the most profitable industry in history, with returns that blow past oil, tech, and big pharma. The secret is simple: demand for water is perfectly inelastic. You can't consume less when the price goes up, because without it, you die. This creates the perfect setup for monopoly pricing, allowing them to extract maximum revenue from a captive population. Take Nestlé's bottled water business. It pulls in over $8 billion a year with a staggering 54% profit margin. That's higher than Apple's hardware and Pfizer's pharmaceuticals. The cost breakdown is insane. The water itself costs them 5/100ths of a cent per gallon. The plastic bottle is 3 cents. Processing adds another 8 cents. Total cost to produce a bottle, 12 cents. They sell it for $1.50. That's a $1.38 profit on every single bottle. Scale that up. Nestlé processes 4.6 billion gallons a year, turning it into 38 billion bottles. That generates $57 billion in retail revenue. They capture 8.2 billion of that wholesale, but the total economic value they extract from a free natural resource is nearly $60 billion a year. Veolia's municipal water management is even bigger, just less visible. They have $28.5 billion in annual contracts, serving 200 million people who pay monthly water bills of $75 to $125. Unlike bottled water, these corporate profits are hidden inside complex rate structures that look like public utility charges. Then there's financial speculation. Water futures trading on the CME Group moves about $1.8 billion worth of water contracts annually. Corporations that own physical water rights profit from price swings, while speculators can create artificial scarcity by hoarding contracts when a drought is predicted. When you add it all up, municipal contracts, bottled water, industrial services, and technology sales, the global water market is worth $865 billion. That's bigger than the entire economy of Saudi Arabia or Switzerland, making water the world's largest unregulated monopoly. Investors know this. Veolia trades at a valuation nearly 19 times its revenue because the market understands its customers can never leave. Nestlé's water division is just 23% of its revenue, but accounts for 31% of its market value because it's seen as recession-proof. Now, for the most critical part, the timeline. Corporate control of water will become irreversible unless a massive resistance emerges in the next 24 months. We are in the critical window, from 2025 to 2027. In the first quarter of 2025, climate-driven water stress will hit a tipping point in 25 countries, affecting 1.8 billion people. Australia's Murray-Darling Basin faces total depletion. Cape Town will enter its second day-zero water crisis. These emergencies are the entry points for rapid corporate expansion. By mid-Lausanne-Ling-Archewul, Nestlé will finish acquiring 47 more spring sites across North America. Their $3.2 billion investment secures 50-year rights to extract 890 million gallons a year, often from communities already facing their own water shortages. This isn't some distant future, it's happening right now. The next 24 months will decide whether water remains a human right or becomes a corporate asset forever. We're living through the final phase of the largest resource capture in human history. For the last 40 years, 3 giant corporations have been quietly executing a 5-stage plan to monopolize water. They've managed to turn a free natural resource into an $865 billion industry with staggering profit margins between 60 and 80%. What you need to know is that the next 24 months are critical. This is our last chance. If we do nothing, their control over the world's water will become mathematically irreversible by 2028. But if we act, we could spark the largest resistance movement in modern history and return water to public hands. So how did we get here? And what does the endgame look like? Let's follow the timeline. By late 2025, one of these corporations, Veolia, will have secured 127 new contracts in developing countries, worth $67 billion. How the World Bank is pushing infrastructure loans that require private sector involvement. This forces cash-strapped governments to hand over their water management to corporations. Then, in early 2026, things get even more serious. Water futures trading expands into European and Asian markets. This creates a global speculation casino, allowing financial players to artificially create scarcity and manipulate water prices for entire regions. The projected trading volume is $47 billion. This isn't about supply and demand. It's about financial engineering for profit. By mid-2026, this corporate water infrastructure becomes too big to fail. Over 340 million people globally will depend on these private systems. If governments try to take back control, they'll face impossible costs and technical hurdles. The system is designed to be permanent. As climate change worsens, the situation becomes a full-blown humanitarian crisis. By late 2026, climate migration accelerates, with over 200 million people forced to relocate due to water stress. These refugees become a captive market, completely dependent on corporate water services in their new homes. By 2027, public alternatives will be a distant dream, requiring decades and hundreds of billions of dollars that governments simply don't have. This isn't just a business plan. It's a blueprint for permanent control. So, who wins and who loses in this new world of water apartheid? The winners profit enormously from scarcity they helped create. Nestlé shareholders, for example, could see $8.2 billion a year from bottled water, with stock prices climbing as global water stress gets worse. Veolia could generate $28.5 billion servicing 200 million people. Its stock trading at a huge premium because it operates as a monopoly. Wealthy communities will pay a premium, maybe a few $100s a month, for unlimited water in places like Bangalore, India. We're already seeing this. Affluent districts get water 24/7, while slums get it for just a few hours a week. Water-rich nations like Canada and Russia become the new superpowers, forced to decide between selling their water to corporations for profit or protecting it for their own people. But the losers, they face catastrophe. Rural communities are being left behind. In Michigan, Nestlé's water extraction is drying up the wells of 12,000 rural residents. Just to bottle it and truck it 200 miles away, indigenous populations are being displaced. In Canada, Nestlé extracts water from lands belonging to the Six Nations, where thousands of residents lack safe drinking water and are forced to buy bottled water. Sometimes the very same brand that's taking it from under their feet. Low-income families are forced to make impossible choices between water and food, or housing. In Detroit, over 100,000 households had their water shut off for bills averaging just $75 a month. Meanwhile, big corporate users got discounts. Families earning $20,000 a year are paying up to 8% of their income just for basic water. Developing nations lose control over their most vital resource. In Manila, private companies serve the rich, while 4 million people in poor settlements have to buy water from trucks at 10 times the municipal rate. Farmers are being pushed off their land. In California, water is being redirected from agriculture to cities, leaving over 500,000 acres of farmland to turn to dust. The outcome is clear. Water apartheid, unlimited access for those who can pay corporate rates, and rationing and crisis for everyone else. This isn't just the market at work. It's a systematic capture of a resource essential for survival, turning it into a luxury commodity. The next 2 years will define our future. Either we let corporate water control become permanent, or we stand together and fight to reclaim our most fundamental human right. The choice is ours, but the clock is ticking. What if I told you the next great war won't be fought over oil, but over this? Water. This isn't just about what comes out of your tap. It's about whether our most basic survival should depend on corporate profits. Think about it. When private companies control the very source of life, what happens to democracy? You can't vote against a corporation that holds the key to your water supply. A chilling pattern has emerged. A 5-stage plan has successfully captured global water resources, an industry now worth an astronomical $865 billion a year. The pipes are laid, the legal contracts are signed, and the financial systems are designed to deliver massive returns to a select few. And here's the scariest part. Climate change isn't just a crisis, it's a business opportunity. It creates permanent drought and scarcity, which these corporations then exploit to expand their control even further. But don't lose hope, because a powerful resistance is rising. All around the world, communities are fighting back. They're organizing, protesting, and demanding that their water be returned to public hands. Cities are bravely tearing up corporate contracts, even when faced with immense legal and financial threats. A global movement is gaining momentum, pushing for water to be recognized for what it is. A fundamental human right, not just another commodity to be bought and sold on the market. This is the most important battle of our generation, and it's happening right now. The water wars have begun. Over the next 18 months, I'm going to track every single development in this fight. Every new extraction permit, every backroom deal, every inspiring victory for public control, and every corporate power grab. I want you to see this pattern clearly. Why? Because understanding this isn't just about being informed. It's about recognizing that the next 2 years will decide the future of humanity as most essential resource. Will it remain in corporate hands, or will we reclaim it for the public good? The stakes are nothing less than our survival. When just a handful of corporations control the world's water, they control everything: power, politics, life and death. That isn't capitalism. It's a new form of feudalism dressed up in a corporate suit. The only way this ends is with us, through organized, unified resistance that forces water back into public hands where it belongs. The window to act is now. The choice is ours to make. Public water for all, or corporate water for profit. A human right, or manufactured scarcity. The future of our civilization hangs in the balance. Thank you for watching. If you believe this is a fight worth fighting, subscribe and join me on this journey.